Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Douglas Brouwer. He is a seasoned pastor, author of 8 books. Latest is Traveler's Path, and we'll explore transformative power of travel and pilgrimage with him, and so many other things we'll learn from him. Welcome to the show, Douglas.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to meet you.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Douglas. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll talk about travel. We'll talk about faith. We'll talk about, your journey as a pilgrim. We'll talk about so many things, all things travel and, pilgrimage we'll talk about. But before that, let's learn a bit about your journey, your background, so that people know who they are listening to.
Yeah, thank you. I came to write this book because I've been traveling for most of my life. My parents would take me and my sisters on long road trips every summer. And so we visited all of North America. And I had no idea at the time what a gift they had given me, but they gave me the gift of curiosity. And then in adulthood, I continued this travel. And at this point in my life, I wanted to reflect on it and ask myself why I did it and why so many people do it.
Absolutely. So I want to understand, obviously, your parents gave you that curiosity, that, that thing about travel. But traveling is individual's choice. Some people want to travel, but they cannot. And some people do not want to travel. Life puts them on a path of a lot of travel. Something, sometimes in wilderness, sometimes in wandering what life is all about. Tell us, what is your experience of travel, about life along that path?
Okay, so in addition to my own curiosity, which I think is a gift from my parents, scientists have identified a gene, what they call an adventure gene. And it appears as though 20% of the population in the world has this gene. And in fact, when human beings first left Africa 50,000 years ago, it appears that one of the driving factors was this genetic makeup. All right. But then in addition to all of that, I've come to think in my research that there's also a spiritual component. I think human beings have a kind of restlessness and are searching for something spiritual.
Right. So how did you define your travels in life? Means you talk about travel, you talk about pilgrimage. Have you ever felt that, that some travels became pilgrimage, and some pilgrimage just remained travel? You did not attain what you wanted to. It happens many. How have been your experience along this path?
Yeah, I need to say that sometimes a holiday is just a holiday. We need a break from work. We go to a beach and lie in the sun, read a book. However you relax. So sometimes travel is just getting away from everything. But there are other times when we're seeking meaning. We want to understand the world and the people around us much better. We want new experiences. So that's been the focus of my research and reflection, this other kind of travel.
Absolutely. So how should one look at, what is the difference between, travel and a pilgrimage? They all are travel. How would you like to explain that part?
I grew up in a religious tradition that didn't have much use for pilgrimage. It was a new word to me at a certain point in my life. And I came to embrace it because it described my own experience. So I would go somewhere and then I would find deep meaning in the experience. I would find myself changed. And I find that the word pilgrimage is the right one to use to describe that kind of travel.
Absolutely. Many people look at, company along the travel. And in your case, you talk about, you embrace the joy and challenge of walking solo along the various, Camino paths. So help
Right.
us understand, what is the best way to walk, solo or with a companion?
So earlier in my life, my wife and she often accompanied me. We would lead groups of people on pilgrimage. And as it turns out, that's a lot of work. People get sick, they get angry, their needs need to be seen to. So at a certain point in my life, I decided to try solo pilgrimage. And as you know from reading about me, I have walked a great deal in Spain and Portugal in particular. These are ancient pilgrimage paths. They all end up in one particular town in northwest Spain. But what's important is not what's in that town. What's important to me is what happens along the way. And if I can just add this, that for me personally, what's so life-changing about these solo walks is the people I meet along the way. Interestingly, there have been very few Americans I've met. I have met people from all over the world. And as we walk together, we get to know each other. We exchange stories. To me, that's been the life-changing part of pilgrimage.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, how has travel, reshaped your understanding of spirituality? Is it the same or did it change it?
Yeah, I would like to think that it has broadened and expanded my view of spirituality because I've met people from all over the world. I've had to try to see the world through their eyes. I mean, the faith I grew up with is still very important to me, but I would like to think I have a new appreciation for the faith that other people express.
Absolutely. And in terms of language, you talk about, you going to new countries, learning new languages. What has that brought to you? Have you got unexpected lessons, new things that you would not have done otherwise along with the travel?
Yeah, thank you for asking that, AJ. Many Americans, maybe most Americans, find no value in learning other languages. And when I was in school as a younger person, I learned Latin, knowing, I guess, that there would be no use for that in my adult life beyond, I don't know, knowing English grammar better. So I was almost 60 years old when I found myself in a new culture. I was in a German-speaking culture, and I was required to learn a new language for my work permit. Well, language learning after age 10 is challenging, as many of your listeners probably know. But so here's what I learned. By speaking the language of other cultures, I found myself understanding things from their point of view. Symbols, values that can only be expressed in the words of another culture. So in my own reflection then about language learning and how that relates to travel, I've become a big proponent of learning languages as a way to understand other cultures.
Absolutely. And along this path, how did these 8 books come along? Means you are very well traveled, been a pastor in many countries, and along it needs a lot of, you can say, planning to write many books. 8 books. The latest is the Traveler's Part. So it's out now, or is it yet to be out?
It's been out for a couple of weeks, so very new, and I've been speaking on lots of podcasts and radio shows like this one, and it's been a treat each time. Every time a book comes out. So I've discovered that I'm a teacher at heart, and I like to ask provocative questions. So when I write, I write to engage my audience, and I ask them to think with me about whatever the subject happens to be. In this case, I invite people to think about travel with me, and I hope I ask hard questions. In fact, I hope you don't mind if I bring this up. A lot of travel today is not good. It's wasteful and it's destructive to the environment, and there are a lot of problems with travel. So in this new book, I raise all of those questions, and I hope that the reader engages with me about that.
Absolutely. I would like to understand more. And you are absolutely, I totally agree with you. In fact, we keep on reading about, a lot of tourists in many places, local population almost do not want them there.
Yes.
They become, places of, rather than, places of, you know, goodness. People find that becoming very bad for them, and they do not want such tourists there. That is why I want to know more about the book itself, The Traveler's Path. What have you dealt in this book? What are some of the other questions, including this one, have you raised in this book? And when, in your opinion, what is the right kind of travel? So earlier, when they used to call it, he's a well-traveled man, that meant a lot of wisdom. I don't know if they will say the same thing in today's time, after using the accumulated air miles.
Yeah, so here's the conclusion that I came to. We might as well cut to the chase on this. I don't think you have to go very far. You don't have to jump on an airplane in order to experience the benefits of travel. Some of the travelers that I admire most are those who never went very far from home. And this came as a surprise to me because I love to jump on an airplane and go somewhere. But there are people who never venture more than a few kilometers from home, but they wander around with their eyes open. They are attentive to nature, to other people. I think what I've come to see is that every day presents an opportunity to live as a pilgrim.
Absolutely. So I asked that, what is the best way to travel? What would you like, how would you like people to travel best in today's time?
So I don't know if your listeners are aware of this, but often a long conversation goes on about the title of a book. And early on, I wanted to call this book Get Off the Bus. And as you can see, that I didn't win the argument with my publisher. But the idea here is to stop seeing the world through the windows of a tour bus and get off and engage people, ask them questions about their lives, try to understand why they live as they do, always preferably in sensitive ways, of course. But anyway, my book is an encouragement to people to get off the bus and engage the world around them.
Absolutely. And how do you think, in many parts of the world, a lot of people look at travel in a spiritual way to know themselves, not looking at it from a pilgrimage point of view, but to know themselves better. What is it that they can do that a travel becomes a pilgrimage without it being a pilgrimage for anyone? Any thoughts on this, Douglas?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. And to be honest with you, there are plenty of people who travel and think of themselves as pilgrims, but who do not have a religious motivation. So this is what I'm advocating is a journey of self-discovery. I think as we get to know other peoples, we get to know ourselves better. In the book, I write about different faiths, and every faith seems to have its own pilgrimage activity. The Kumbh Mela in India is one I didn't know about until I did research for the book. That's a fascinating topic for me. But Islam, Judaism, every major faith in the world today has its own expression of pilgrimage.
Right. One more thing, I want to understand from you, Douglas, your wisdom of life is that people travel a lot, but never get to travel within. How would you like? Have you ever talked in any of your books, this book about traveling within, discovering oneself in his own way?
Have I ever talked about that with? No, I think this is a new topic for me, and I was living in the Netherlands when I decided to write this book, and my daughter, a younger daughter, was the one who said to me, "Dad, you've spent your whole life doing this. Why don't you think about it and then write your conclusions?" So I reached nearly 70 years old before I sat down to think this one through. It's been such a major part of my life, but it took my daughter to say, "Hey, Dad, it's time for you to think about this and help other people think about it too."
Absolutely. And what are your other 7 books about? Are they also about travel or different things?
This is the first about travel. So to give you an example, I once served a church that had more than 20 different nationalities and language groups in it. So I wrote a book about the multicultural church and how to navigate all the issues that arise in a setting like that. I've written a book about marriage, and not because I'm an expert at it, but because I had some ideas to contribute to that conversation. And then, I have a book that's written in the form of a letter to my grandchildren, and it came out of an attempt to do my family tree. I did some genetic testing, put together my family tree, and so I wrote a letter to my grandchildren. And I said, "This is who you are, and this is where you've come from."
Absolutely. A lot of people are doing this whole testing about family trees. They are doing the DNA testing, trying to get to their roots. I interviewed a couple of people who do this work for others. Recently, I had a discussion with someone who is, part of a royal lineage. She's a writer now. So, did any of your knowing about yourself surprise you, or it was all the way you have been seeing?
My own family tree, AJ, is pretty boring. That was my discovering. All of my genetic inheritance comes from 2 small provinces in Northwest Europe. So it's not very interesting at all. But I researched my name and where that came from. I think that my ancestors were not privileged people by any means. They're peasants, worked the land. I thought this was a story worth passing on to my children and grandchildren.
Absolutely. It's a very good thing in today's time to even have a story, a normal story. Some stories turn out that, they want to look at their royal lineage, and it is something which they never wanted, but would never want to know. So at least, thank God for that, for not having such stories. Every story is important and beautiful in itself. And in today's time, every normal story is extraordinary in itself. That's what my belief is. That's why, that's what I believe when talking to people. Normal people can come out with great insights. Extraordinary people, many times, it just doesn't turn out that way.
I think you do that with a master class. I see your guests, and I think that you have succeeded in that. Well done.
Thank you, Douglas. Thank you. So many things to know about life, travel, pilgrimage, Camino de Santiago, if I'm pronouncing that name correctly. So all those things, a lot of people would want to connect with you, learn more from you, about your books, the Traveler's Path to. What's the best way for them to do so, Douglas?
Well, like a million other people these days, I have a Substack newsletter, and you can find me at dougsblog.substack.com, and I publish at least twice a month, and that would be the best way.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Yep. Thank you.